McGregor also.
Whether you are a longtime UFC fan or just a casual viewer of the sport, you've likely heard of a young up-and-comer by the name of Suga Sean O'Malley. And even though his name sounds like a brand of children's cereal, his quick and sporadic striking is anything but sweet, at least for the fighter on the receiving end of things. As for the rest of us, we can all sit back and enjoy the Suga Show. Here are 13 facts you might not know about Sean O'Malley. Sean wasn't always destined to be a fighter. As it turns out, he came home when he was 12 or 13 and walked in on his father watching a UFC match. He was taken aback and completely appalled and actually told on his dad to his mother. He couldn't conceive how his dad could watch two men actively trying to hurt each other.
Well. How the turntables.
Suga played basketball, football, soccer, and baseball his whole life, from around age 4 all the way into his high school years. This is where he got his coordination and athleticism from that he would eventually bring to the MMA world. Despite being an avid marijuana user these days, Suga didn't actually start smoking until he moved to Phoenix, Arizona and saw his best friend and coach Tim Welch smoking weed. He was absolutely flabbergasted by the sight of it, as he was brought up to think that the green was the devil. This is probably in small part due to the fact that his father is a detective, and he was born in Helena, Montana. Seeing as the place Sean grew up was extremely conservative, and the fact that his father was part of the justice system, it's no shocker that he would feel so sketched out at the first sight of a fellow fighter smoking the herb flamboyantly. While we are on the subject of marijuana, Suga has a method to his consumption in relation to his fighting. To preserve his lungs and have max cardio, he switches to vaping and edible gummies 6 weeks out from fight week. And at the 3 weeks out from fight week mark, he switches to only gummies. Whatever he's doing seems to be working, but kids, don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. Okay?
Drugs are bad. Okay?
O'Malley is all about strengthening the body and the mind. For this reason, he practices meditation and likes to meditate for at least 10 minutes every morning as a way to level himself out.
10 minutes a day.
It's crazy to think about because it is, I mean, I know what you're saying, it's hard to do. It is 10 minutes in the morning, that's it.
Suga was lucky enough to get many sponsors early on in his career, enough so that when he relocated to Arizona to train at the MMA lab, he didn't have to get a day job, and in turn was able to lay all his focus to training. It's a good thing he had this focus because, in those earlier days, Sean used to eat a lot of junk food. Pop-Tarts, ramen, you name it. He was having lots of inflammation issues in his back, but since he had lots of free time, educated himself in nutrition, and cleaned up his diet, he saw his inflammation issues disappear. A small price to pay on the road to becoming a champion. Speaking of the early days, Suga once got challenged to a sparring match from an ex-convict, really jacked neighbor of his. Coach Tim gave this neighbor the address to the gym and off they went. The super muscly, jacked neighbor thought he was going to wipe the floor with that skinny kid, but soon found out why Sean O'Malley is a professional fighter. Sean struck him so hard in the stomach that he actually pooped his pants, and they continued to spar on the mat, smearing the feces. The neighbor denied it was him who defecated on the mat, but Tim was filming the sparring match, and upon reviewing it, saw the squirt of brown come from the neighbor upon receiving the hardest strike to his torso he had ever experienced. That's one way to clear out a gym. Sean is currently in an open relationship with his wife, which might be problematic because they have a daughter by the name of Elena together. But if that sparring story is any indication on how the general population would fare against Suga, I'm not going to tell him how to live his life. Lastly, it should be no shock that with a last name like O'Malley, that this Irish boy was inspired by none other than Conor McGregor. There was speculation of the notorious one mentoring Suga after a picture of the two circulated on the internet. One thing's for certain, Conor spoke highly of Sean, and hearing praise from a childhood hero is plenty of inspiration and spark to keep shooting for the top. So, did you learn anything new about Sean O'Malley? Let us know your favorite lesser-known fact about this young Irishman. Also let us know what athletes you want to see covered in a future video. This is the Athlete Academy. We'll catch you in the next one.